It is very rare for a person to achieve the status of billionaire and then lose it. Although it is a rare occurrence, it is not unheard of. Usually, one expects a billionaire to be shrewd enough to protect their wealth. However, situations could get tough sometimes. Don't forget to watch today's video to the very end for fake rich people exposed as broke. Number 13. Toni Braxton. Toni Braxton filed for bankruptcy twice. The Unbreak My Heart singer opened up about her financial troubles in a 2012 interview with ABC's 2020. She said that in 1998, she had to file for bankruptcy due to her recording contract paying her poorly. She said she received less than $2,000 in royalties, as well as costly spending habits. Then in 2008, she had to cancel a Las Vegas review due to ongoing health issues, which forced her to again file for bankruptcy. Braxton has since starred on her own reality TV show, WeTV's Braxton Family Values, and on other made-for-TV movies. She also announced a 2019 As Long As I Lead tour in support of her latest album, Sex and Cigarettes. Number 12. Larry King. Larry King is one of America's most recognizable faces in media, but the TV host had to file for bankruptcy back in 1978 after legal and financial troubles. King began his career in broadcast in the 1950s and 60s as a radio announcer in Miami, Florida. But in 1971, he was charged with grand larceny and accused of stealing $5,000 from his then business partner. Although the charges were dropped, that situation took a toll on his career at the time. King fell deep into debt and was forced to declare bankruptcy in 1978. That same year, though, King was offered a national radio talk show in Washington, D.C., which later became his career-defining Larry King Live on CNN. Number 11. Kim Basinger. Actress Kim Basinger once purchased a 1,691-acre town and later had to file for bankruptcy. In 1989, Basinger paid $20 million for the town of Brazelton, Georgia. She was expected to create a tourist attraction such as a theme park or movie studio, but she instead declared bankruptcy in 1993 and had to sell the property. The bankruptcy was a huge news story at the time. Basinger was sued by Boxing Helena producer Carl Mazzacone for backing out of an oral contract to star in the film. The Los Angeles Superior Court ordered her to pay damages and lawyer fees. Basinger eventually settled with Mainline Pictures in 1995, avoiding the initial $8.1 million judgment. She has continued to act in movies like 2002's 8 Mile with Eminem, 2010's Charlie St. Cloud with Zac Efron, and 2017's 50 Shades Darker. Number 10. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was reportedly at least $400 million in debt when he died unexpectedly in 2009. The King of Pop was also close to foreclosure on his famous Neverland home. Large amounts of spending required Jackson to take out loans, many of which he never paid back. Jackson's money problems got worse once he was involved in numerous expensive lawsuits and interest on his debt increased. At the time of his death, a forensic accountant estimated that Jackson owed $400 to $500 million. His estate has resolved the financial issues, and Michael has been the top-earning dead celebrity since 2012. Number 9. Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, earning $40 million in 2009 alone, but also one of its biggest spenders. Cage purchased many homes, automobiles, and rare artifacts. However, in 2015, reports started to emerge about how he blew his $150 million fortune from 1996 to 2011. The IRS placed tax liens on multiple properties he owned and then had Cage hand over more than $6 million for failing to pay his 2007 tax bill. Cage's precarious financial situation led him to sell many of his personal belongings, including a treasured comic book. One of his most recent roles was as Spider Noir in 2018's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Number 8. Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s nickname is Money for never losing a boxing match. Ironically, he owed money to the IRS. Deadspin reported that Money Mayweather has owed the IRS money for over a decade. The boxer's failure to pay taxes resulted in a $22.2 million debt to the IRS, even as he came out of retirement for a high-grossing fight. In 2018, there were reports that Mayweather could come out of retirement again to settle his debts. Number 7. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson earned a reported $400 million over his career, but he was knocked down with a $23 million debt in 2003. the heavyweight champion declared bankruptcy, returned to jail, and went through rehab before he again reached financial stability. By 2003, he owed money to the IRS, British tax authorities, lawyers, a personal trainer, a financial manager, and a music producer, among others. Tyson had to pay $9 million in a divorce settlement and was also behind on child support. Today, Tyson has retired from fighting and appears to be solvent again. In 2018, Tyson started a marijuana company in California called the Ranch Companies. Last year, he revealed he wants to start a cannabis-themed resort. Number 6. Stephen Baldwin. Stephen Baldwin filed for bankruptcy in 2009 while owing money on taxes and a couple of mortgages. Alex's younger brother filed for bankruptcy in 2009 while owing money on taxes and a couple of mortgages. Troubles repeated as Baldwin's house was foreclosed in 2017 after 6 years of no mortgage payments. On another occasion, Baldwin was arrested and served 5 years probation for failing to pay taxes for 3 straight years. Number 5. 50 Cent. In 2015, 50 Cent was reportedly $32.5 million in debt. He broke out as a rapper in the late 90s, but he makes most of his money from a diverse business empire. In 2015, 50 Cent was reportedly $32.5 million in debt while caught up in lawsuits and unpaid child support payments. The next year, he declared bankruptcy. More recently, 2018 reports said 50 Cent was a millionaire because of the 700 bitcoins he was reportedly paid on his 2014 album. 50 Cent later filed court documents that said the reports weren't true and the rapper had never owned any bitcoins. Number 4. Civil War General Ulysses S. Grant. It is tough to imagine a president going broke after leaving the White House, but that's what happened to esteemed Civil War General Ulysses S. Grant. The 18th president became a partner in financial firm Grant & Ward, but Ferdinand Ward embezzled investors' money, leaving the firm and Grant bankrupt in 1884. Grant was receiving a military pension, but it wasn't enough as the president was also suffering from throat cancer. To make money, Grant had author Mark Twain publish his memoirs, but he died before he could make money from his life story. Number 3. Mark Twain. Speaking of Mark Twain, the American author grew up poor after his father died when the novelist-to-be was 11 years old. Throughout his career, Twain desired to become rich, and even though he married up on the social ladder, his dream never came true. After the success of Grant's biography and the adventures of Tom Sawyer, Twain's publishing house went bankrupt. His financial failings contributed to depression, and in 1894, the satirist declared bankruptcy. With more successful writing and a popular speaking tour, Twain got back to financial security but then lost a $30,000 investment in a protein powder. Number 2. MC Hammer. Despite his hit You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer filed for bankruptcy. MC Hammer had a legitimate hit with You Can't Touch This, and the rapper soon had $30 million in the bank. Thanks to his success, Hammer bought a $1 million mansion that he made $30 million worth of adjustments to and staffed 200 people in his home. He also bought a horse stable where he kept 19 racehorses. Combined with his unrestrained spending and numerous lawsuits, Hammer declared bankruptcy in 1996, while he was reportedly $13 million in debt. In 2011, he went on The Oprah Winfrey Show to talk about spending most days in California's Silicon Valley and being loosely involved with about 8 technology companies. Number 1. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was a famous basketballer player, but in 2012, his lawyers said he could barely afford his living expenses. Dennis Rodman was known as a great rebounder and teammate of Michael Jordan before becoming an eccentric celebrity. Outside of sports, Rodman was known for a short marriage to Karen Electra and was eventually an unofficial U.S. ambassador to North Korea. In 2012, Rodman's lawyers said he could barely afford living expenses and could not pay child support for his 2 kids. At the time, he reportedly owed over $800,000 in back child support. But in court documents, his lawyers said he was broke and sick. Recently, Rodman was accused of stealing a 400-pound amethyst crystal from a yoga studio, as well as more than $500 worth of clothing from brands like Spiritual Gangster and Lululemon. He denied the allegation and said the merchandise was given as a gift. With that, we end today's video. Consider subscribing to our channel in order to join in a next time for more of such interesting content.